At the gravity one, and then you have the one where it's contracted through effort. So any kind of posture like this where you're actually defying gravity. So cobra, bow. So not only in bow are you contracting those erector spinae muscles, but you're also engaging the gluteus maximus to help get the knees up a little higher. And then you go into the upper back muscles. But when you come into these different back bends, remember to contract the abdomen so you create that airbag effect. What stretches them out, obviously, any kind of forward bend. So remember that opposite action. And I picked up in my own little library, I had this book, Anatomy and Asana, Preventing Yoga Injuries, and it's by Susie Hatley Aldous. And she talks in here how the spine is like a pyramid. So I'm going to see if I could get kind of closer so you guys can see this. So you see where the cervical spine is and how you go down the thoracic spine to the lumbar spine, all the way to the bottom, and how it actually looks like a pyramid. And coming from a civil engineering background, whenever you have like a wider base, that's when you have more stability. So, and she talks about here as the stability and the stacking, the spine as a pyramid. Much like a pyramid, the spine has a wide base and a narrow top, giving the structure inherent stability. So we're actually made to have inherent stability. And she also talks about in here as how ability within each segment, the spine as a string of pearls. The spine is also exceptionally mobile. Its tiny vertebrae are joined as if they were pearls strung together to form a necklace. Each pearl with its own independent movement. So let's take this idea one step further. If each vertebral joint has its own independent movement, how much movement is truly available in the spine? And she answers by saying an infinite amount. So there are a couple weak links in the spine, and she talks about the weak links, the inherent hypermobility of the spine. So let me see if I could get a little closer. So you have your cervical spine, and that's where the neck is. And in between C7, which is the last vertebrae of the cervical spine, and T1, which is the first vertebrae of the thoracic spine. So that area there, as well as T12 and L1, then L5 and S1. So those are the weak links. So within the spine, each vertebral joint has its own range of movement. Some vertebral joints, however, allow more movement than others. These more movable joints are located at the junctions where the curves of the spine change direction. So again, between C7 and T1, T12 and L1, L5 and S1. Okay. And just a couple more points from this, because I thought it was very, very interesting. How this relates to preventing yoga injuries. In yoga, students have a tendency to flare the lower ribs, jam through the lower back, or hinge at the lower neck. This is most noticeable in the lower back during back bends, in the neck during forward bends, and the ribs when bananaing inversions and during twists. Students move this way because of habit, posture, and previous athletic endeavors. As a result, other vertebral joints become tighter or stuck. For example, between the scapula and the thoracic curve, or the upper portion of the lumbar spine. Ultimately then, in our yoga asanas, we want to improve movement of the vertebrae that tend to become stuck. As these vertebrae begin to move more easily, the more mobile areas of the spine no longer compensate for tighter areas. Instead, they take on a role of giving freedom, inviting ease, and recreating space in the body. All right. And she also talks about how to connect spinal movement at the largest joints first. So the larger joints are the pelvis, the hip joints, and the shoulder joints. So move from those areas first, and then go deeper. So I've noticed as a teacher how, especially women, when they come to class, their lower back, their lumbar spine is usually stuck out, which for me, just doing this creates discomfort. So creating that airbag effect, drawing that in, helps to lengthen the sacrum, the tailbone down. And even going into twist, one pose I noticed today during my practice, I was actually at a studio with another teacher. We were doing modified side plank, and how the student in front of me would stick her butt back and then raise her arm up. So that created a lot of instability. Not only is it uncomfortable in the lower back, but the instructor asked to lift the top leg up, and it's not that comfortable to do it because a lot of energy is being sent into my, or actually it would have been in her thigh. So it made it very uncomfortable and awkward to look at. So what she could have done is drawn the abdomen in, engage the gluteus maximus to help press the hips forward. So again, if we're here, abdomen engages, gluteus maximus engages to help press the hips more forward, thereby stacking the hips right over that bottom knee, pretty much. So another cue is to have students puff their ribs out. And notice what happens when you try to do this on your own. Not only when you engage the abdomen, so the pelvis comes into a more stable position, but try to puff the ribs out. That helps to immediately lengthen the thoracic spine. And lastly, if you've ever seen a deer in headlights, they're very alert. So you could think of yourself being like a deer in headlights. And that just, basically I feel like a lift, mainly for my crown of the head. So abdomen in, ribs puff out, deer, I guess deer head, deer eyes, whatever you want to think or call it. And of course, shoulders back and down. So how does that relate going into back bends? So I'll just simply do Sphinx pose. So I contract. For me, it feels more comfortable this way. Instead of keeping my gluteus maximus muscles relaxed, I like to engage them a little, and then also draw my navel in, and that lengthens that lumbar spine, and then puff my ribs, kind of straightens it, but in the back bend you want to try to relax the middle area. But here you could think of the deer ears or deer eyes or deer head there, and that helps to lengthen it up. So again, I like to tuck my tailbone to create that extra length in my lower spine, shoulders back and down. And I could attempt to draw my forearms back to kind of reach my chest more forward. So what I've seen other students do, mainly in cobra pose or up dog, is they come into it and they think jerking their neck back gets them better into the pose. But if you really think of creating that space. And then reaching the chin forward some, and then allowing the head to drop back. But preferably, it's more comfortable to have the head and neck in line with the rest of the spine. So it's just a nice curve as opposed to like angled. It's just more comfortable in the body. So I hope these tips are beneficial for you and something that you could see in your students to help them find more space, find more stability, and find more movement, not only in their personal practice, but in your daily life. So I hope this helps. Any questions or comments or anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.